back to Creative Writing, and for this lesson we will begin discussing about writing fiction or how to write fiction. But before that, let us know the elements of fiction. Now we have the characters, the point of view, the plot, setting and atmosphere, and the conflict. Now first, let us discuss characters. First, what are the different character roles? First one, we have the protagonist. O kung sa Tagalog, siya ang bida. He's the main character of the story or the movie. Now, we have here the examples: Harry Potter, from the Harry Potter of J.K. Rowling, and DC Comics Batman. Now, throughout this lesson about character roles, we will be having the example of the story of Harry Potter and the story of Batman. Let's go to the antagonist. Now, the antagonist is the villain of the story, and for Harry Potter, we have Voldemort or Lord Voldemort. And for Batman, there's a lot of villains for the story of Batman, but the most known villain is Joker right here. So Joker is the antagonist or the villain, and Voldemort is the antagonist for the Harry Potter. Next one is the love interest. Now, the love interest of Harry Potter is Ginny Weasley. Now, a lot of us thought that it was Hermione Granger, but no, it's not. It's Ginny Weasley. Now, for Batman, we have Catwoman over here. Now, throughout the story of Batman, there's a lot of love interest, but let's just choose one, and it's Catwoman. Next one, we have the confidant. Now, the confidant are your sidekicks, or those who are close to the main characters. Now, for Harry Potter, I chose Hermione Granger here, and also, of course, Ron Weasley can be an example of the confidant as well. And for Batman, we have here Robin. Next, DEUTORAGONIST. Now, these characters often overlap with the confidants. DEUTORAGONIST is close also to the main character, but the story's main plot does not directly correspond with their characters. Or simply, DEUTORAGONIST are the secondary main character. So it's kind of the same with the confidants. So we have here Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, and we also have here Robin. Okay, so they are the second most important character after the protagonist. And we have the foil. A foil character primarily exists to bring the protagonist's qualities into sharper relief. This is because the foil is effectively the opposite of the protagonist. Now, you might be thinking that a foil is the antagonist. Now, it's not all the time that the antagonist is the foil, but sometimes foils can be the best friend of the main character. The best friend of the main character that can be rendered with opposite characteristics. For example, the main character is shy, she's very timid, and then her best friend is someone who's outgoing and something like that. Now, the best friend is the foil of the main character. Now, for example, here in Harry Potter series, Draco Malfoy can be seen as a foil to the Harry Potter character. For example, when they have to choose where to go, Harry chooses to oppose Lord Voldemort and the Death Eaters wholeheartedly. It will never change. Harry Potter does not like them and wants to fight against them. Whereas here, Draco struggles with his allegiances through the whole series. So sometimes he's confused about his choices. There was a time that he paired up with Lord Voldemort, and there was a time also that he wanted to pair up with it's not really pair up, but go to the side of Harry Potter. Now, that's how they differ in their characters. Now, we also have here still Joker as Batman's foil. Now, Batman is dark and brooding, yet heroic. Of course, Batman is the hero. And then there's Joker, who's colorful, mirthful, yet he is a killer. They are foils for one another, but they have nothing in common. Okay? Now, a foil can be difference with the character's views in life, or just simply how they look and how they act. Okay? Now, we are done with the character roles. Now, let's go to the character types. First, we have dynamic character. This character changes over the course of the story. Now, I have here Shrek as an example of a dynamic character. Now, at first, Shrek is this grumpy ogre. He does not like to be with people, and he's just, your typical ogre who's always grumpy, angry, and wants to. He is having fun if people are scared of him. But later on in the story, because of some struggles and realizations, especially in the story of Shrek Ever After, he changed his character of being someone who's grumpy. He started to become he accepted the fact that people now loves him after saving Fiona. Okay, so the character of Shrek changed over the course of the story because of some happenings along the way. Next one is your round character. It talks about the depth and the dimension of the character. Now here I have the example from Harry Potter again. It is Albus Dumbledore. The Hogwarts headmaster from Harry Potter is one such character, a man of many secrets and contradictions. He changes very little over the course of the series, and his attitude and worldview remain constant. Now, some might confuse dynamic from round characters. Now, round characters may not change across the story. He will remain the same, but he can be considered as someone who is round or a round character because of how deep his character is, his views in life. Next one is your static character. A static character is the opposite of your dynamic character because static character does not noticeably change. Now I have here Cinderella as an example. Now some might disagree with this point of view. So let us focus on why did I chose Cinderella as the example. Cinderella began as being this kind lady, and all throughout the story it did not change. She still remained someone who is kind, okay? But some would explain that actually Cinderella is not a static character, and they would argue that Cinderella is a dynamic character because Cinderella started as this shy girl who would always follow around orders, and she cannot stand up on her own. But later on the story, in the story, she began to be empowered, and she does not let her stepsisters, step over her again. Okay? Next one. We have the stock character. A stock character is an archetypal character with a fixed set of personalities. So I have here fixed characters. Now one example is the librarian, where in most stories the librarian will always be the person who's always angry and would always say, "Shh, quiet," to the students in the school. Now, these stock characters are just your supporting characters or those who just completes the story. They do not really contribute a specific change to the plot. Okay, so they're just like ornaments in the story. So for example, you have the librarian, or you can have the mean girls. So they are stock characters because if you say mean girls, they will be these mean girls that would bully students, other students. Okay, so they are examples of stock characters. And we have here symbolic character. Now, a symbolic character represents a concept or a theme. Now, in the story of Maleficent, or in the movie Maleficent, we have here Aurora. So Aurora has so much hope and love and conviction in her belief, in her innocence and inner goodness. Okay, so despite of the havoc or the chaos that Maleficent is wrecking, she transformed rage into love. Now, in this story, Aurora symbolizes love, a divine love, and restoring grace. Because Maleficent got really dark because of how she was betrayed before, but then Aurora came along and showed everybody else, especially Maleficent, that world is such a wonderful place and we have to love one another, and there's that innocence of goodness in her, and that is what she symbolizes in the story. Now those are the different types of characters. Now let's go to point of view. I know that you have been reading a lot of stories online or even offline with the different novels or books that you are reading. Now, isn't it that there are times that when we read, we felt so involved because the writer or the author used the word I. It's like the reader is the main character of that story. Now, that's an example of a perspective or a point of view. Now, also, there are times that when you read this story, there's that part about that scene that you do not know, or it is being blurred out. Now, the author also creates a mystery in that scene or in that section of the story. And that's why using different perspectives or point of view when writing a story is very important. Now again, we will be talking about perspective or point of view. We have three types of point of view: the first person, the second person, and the third person. The third person has some subtypes as well. So with first person, it uses the first person pronouns. With second person, it uses the second person pronouns, and the third person uses the third person pronouns. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Now we have here the narrator. The narrator is actually showing you what perspective is the author using. So I have here an example of a scene, one scene shown in different perspective. It is Romeo and Juliet. So we have here the first one. I looked up at the terrace and saw Juliet, my love, as beautiful as the sun looking down on me. So, as you may have noticed, we have the pronouns I, my, me, which is in the first person. Now, this example is in the first person point of view. The narrator is Romeo himself looking at Juliet. So if you're reading this, you're feeling like you are Romeo, or you are the character looking at this lady named Juliet. I, my, me. Okay? Now let's go to another perspective. Romeo was in Juliet's garden. He was on the ground and she was on the balcony, and they looked at each other for a long time. Now, as you may have noticed, these are the pronouns used, he and she. So this one is in the third person point of view. The third person point of view, the narrator is the observer. So as you can see, he's observing Romeo and Juliet. What are they doing? So they are looking at each other. Juliet is at the balcony and Romeo was, at the garden looking up to Juliet. Okay? So in the third person point of view, the narrator is an observer. It's like others shot. Okay? So he's standing in a place wherein he can see the characters, or what are the characters doing. Okay? Now, as I have mentioned, there are subtypes in third person point of view. We have the objective, the limited, and the omniscient. Now, in this example, this can be third person objective. When we say objective, he does not know the thoughts of the characters. So it's just outward. It's just he's narrating, or he's telling us, or the narrator is telling us what he can see outwardly without thinking about what is Romeo, or without telling us what Romeo is thinking, or what was Juliet thinking, or what's the feeling of Juliet or Romeo. Okay? And we can have also the limited point of view, third person limited point of view, because in this third person point of view, it only focuses on the main character. The third person point of view can see or can tell us the emotions or the thoughts of the main character. For example, when we say Romeo was so delighted, his heart was pumping really hard as he saw Juliet. So that's an example of a third person limited point of view. We can see the narrator tells us the emotions and what is the feeling of a specific character only. He cannot tell us what is the emotions of Juliet. The narrator can only tell us if he can see it outwardly, that Juliet was smiling, meaning Juliet was happy. But then what's the real emotion behind that smile? We do not know. That's why it's limited. We can only focus on one character. We can only know the thoughts and emotions of one character, and that's most of the time the main character. Well, again, with the objective, the narrator just tells us what he can see outwardly without the emotions and thoughts of the characters. Now, there's this one type of third person point of view wherein we can see the character's thoughts. Is it the main character or supporting characters? So we have here, when Romeo saw Juliet on the terrace above him, he thought she looked as beautiful as the sun. Now, in this example, we know what is Romeo thinking about. Now, we can say that this is limited, but if we go through the story and we also get to know about the real feelings of Juliet as well. Now, this is what you call your omniscient, third person omniscient point of view. It's like the narrator is God, okay, omniscient. The narrator is everywhere. He's inside your mind, inside the feelings of the characters, whether it's the main character or not. Okay, omniscient, God, all-knowing. Okay, so those are the three types of third person point of view. We have the objective, we have the limited, and we have the omniscient. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have the second person point of view. Now it's very rare for a narrator to it's very rare for an author to use the second person point of view. If you compare a lot of novels, there's going to be little amount of stories written in the second person point of view. It's like the narrator would say you. You stared at her so intently, and then she backed away. Okay, so it's like someone is looking at the main character and keeps on saying you. Now here in Aklan, an Aklanan writer wrote a story about, I forgot if it's a young man or if it's a young girl, and he used the second person point of view. That is my former teacher, Sir Alex, and he told the story through the eyes of a mirror. So the only thing that the readers can see is what the mirror can also see. So it's like inside the room of the main character. So the mirror can see only what's happening inside that room. So you enter the room tired and lethargic after a whole day's work. So that's all he can see. He does not really see what's going on outside the room, and he narrated it using the second person point of view. So that's the use of the second person with the use of the word or the pronoun you. Alright, so again, those are the different points of view. We have the first person, wherein the narrator is actually the character himself. It's like when you're reading the story, it feels as if you are the main character because you're using I, my, me, the first person pronouns. And then with the third person, you are an observer. Okay, it's either it's either the narrator can tell us what he can just plainly see, or the narrator can tell us the emotions and feelings of a specific character as he observes it as well, and he can go inside the emotions, he knows it. Or the third person that is omniscient, who can tell us, the narrator that can tell us everything. And then we have the second person point of view, which is rarely used point of view, which use the word or the pronoun you. For the rest of the elements of fiction, we will be discussing plot, setting, and atmosphere, as well as the conflict by the next quarter already. And for your activity, read this short story and answer the questions that follows already. Now this has been Teacher Del. Bye!